60 Minutes Rewind.
When Prince Charles arrives in New York on Tuesday to begin an 8-day visit, it will be his first official trip to America in more than a decade. Everyone knows what's happened in the interim. His troubled marriage to the late Princess Diana, his remarriage to Camilla Parker Bowles, and the youthful indiscretions of his two sons have been turned into a reality-based soap opera by the tabloid media. But most Americans know very little about who the Prince of Wales is and what he does as heir to the British throne. Members of the royal family hardly ever grant interviews. The Queen has never given one, and you rarely see them talk. But last month, as his trip to the United States was being planned, Prince Charles granted us an audience, allowing us to follow him around and chat, not about his family, but about being Prince of Wales, a job and a life like no other.
Most of us in our lives have to fill out applications listing our profession and occupation. You don't have to do that.
No, not always, but sometimes.
If you did, what would you put down?
I would list it as worrying about this country and its inhabitants. That's my particular duty. I found myself born into this particular position. I'm determined to make the most of it and to do whatever I can to help, and I hope leave things behind a little bit better than I found them. So it's hard to say it's a profession, but I think it is a profession, actually doing what I'm doing. Because if you tried it for a bit, you might find out how difficult it is.
He is somewhere between a brand and a public institution, a future head of state in waiting and waiting. He's a symbol of continuity with no real power, but tremendous influence that is tied to his position and wealth. The money comes from a 14th century real estate empire called the Duchy of Cornwall, which was established to provide an income for the heir to the British throne. Today, it includes 135,000 acres of farmland, forests, waterfront property, London real estate, even a cricket stadium. It produces $25 million a year in rents and other income that supports the prince, his wife and children, and a staff of 130. There are also perks like travel on the royal train and $7 million from the government to help with official expenses. Like this trip to the Yorkshire countryside to mark the 850th anniversary of the village of Richmond. The whole town turned out to greet Charles and Camilla, his new wife, longtime friend and former mistress, now the Duchess of Cornwall. They were recently voted the most popular couple in Britain, nosing out the Queen and Prince Philip, and they seemed comfortable with each other and the crowds.
There was clearly a bond between you and the people there. Explain that to me.
I've no idea.
You have no idea?
You noticed it. Well, no, but I mean, I always enjoy seeing all sorts of people all around the country. I do this over and over again. Have done for 30-something years.
500 and some engagements last year. According to your annual report,
You're
yes.
amazing. He's been counting.
He could pass the time playing polo or do nothing at all if he wanted, a path chosen by most of his predecessors, many of whom were layabouts and playboys. But Charles chose to invent a job where none existed. He made 29 major speeches last year, visited 14 countries, and runs the largest group of nonprofit organizations in the country, called the Prince's Charities. He raises more than $200 million a year for those 16 organizations, 14 of which he founded, the largest being the Prince's Trust, which over 29 years has helped provide job training for more than 500,000 young people.
Do you think if you weren't doing this stuff that it would get done?
If I wasn't doing it, no.
You feel like you're making a difference?
I don't know. I try. I just only hope that when I'm dead and gone, they might appreciate it a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes that happens.
As he approaches his 57th birthday, he sometimes feels misunderstood and undervalued. He was educated at Cambridge, can fly jet planes and helicopters, is extremely knowledgeable about the arts, and has tried to carve out for himself a number of different careers: environmentalist, urban planner, real estate developer, and social critic, deeply committed to a vision of what Great Britain was and should be. It's all laid out in bricks and mortar in Poundbury, a village of 2,500 people which he created on his land near Dorchester in the south of England. All of his ideas on architectural design, class structure, aesthetics, and ecology are here. And what he sees as the future looks very much like the past, an 18th century village adapted for the 21st.
And that's a convenience store, which I'm very proud of, which everybody said wouldn't work. That's the pub, which again, nobody wanted to touch. But now, of course, the values are going up and up and up.
Yeah, I've been looking around for any signs of the modern and the flimsy. I don't see it. The place is built to last.
Well, that's what I've been trying to encourage people to think about, to break the conventional mold in the way we've been building and designing for during the last century, really, has all been part of a throwaway society.
Everything here is constructed of native or recycled materials. Sustainable development, he calls it, that conserves the Earth's resources. Single-family homes are mixed with small apartments so that there are people of all income levels here living side by side in a community with shops and light industry. The narrow, twisty roads discourage automobile traffic, and cars are parked out of sight in landscaped lots.
The whole of the 20th century has always put the car at the center. So by putting the pedestrian first, you create these livable places, I think, with more attraction and interest and character, livability.
He believes that the modern world with its cars and computers is slowly eroding our humanity, that we're losing touch with the world around us. The British tabloids have made an industry out of his travails and love to portray him as an out-of-touch eccentric who's trying to stop progress, an Edwardian hippie with no real life experience who's never had to draw his own bath or take out the garbage. He's been constantly ridiculed for what have been called his undergraduate ramblings, including his innocent admission that he talks to his plants.
Are you familiar with any of the plants here? Are you talking to any of them?
Some of them. No. Oh, I do all the time. Not here.
You've gotten more mileage out of that, I think, than almost anything that...
It just shows you can't make a joke
You can't make a joke.
without them taking it seriously. So it's the same old story. Now, do you want us to have a seat?
Sit here?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks so. Is that all right? You've been cunningly provided.
His image is carefully managed by a communications staff of 9, which also handles his umbrella. They made it clear that the prince would not answer questions about his wives, past and present, his sons, or the Queen. He mistrusts the media for past abuses and worries that no one takes him seriously.
What is the most difficult part of your job? Besides dealing with people like me.
Dear. Well, the most important thing is to be relevant, and so I mean it isn't easy, as you can imagine, because if you say anything, people then say it's all right for you to say that. It's very easy to just dismiss anything I say. So it's difficult, but what I've tried to do is to put my money where my mouth is, as much as I can, by actually creating, like here, models on the ground.
You are in many ways the public advocate for the traditional. And what are the great parts of Great Britain that are worth preserving, besides the monarchy?
Well, there's an awful lot of things that are worth preserving. I mean, the trouble I always feel in today's world is that we abandon so many things unnecessarily, I believe. So often it's in the interests of, efficiency. If you make everything over-efficient, you suck out, it seems to me, every last drop of what, up to now, has been known as culture. We are not the technology. It should be our slave, the technology. But it's rapidly becoming our master in many areas, I think.
Are you trying to stop progress?
No, not at all. I'm just trying to say that we ought to redefine the way in which progress is seen. Is it progress to rush headlong into upsetting the whole balance of nature? Which is what I think we're beginning to do. If you look at the latest figures on climate change and global warming, they're terrifying. Terrifying.
The story will continue after this.
As a member of the royal family, he's expected to avoid politically contentious issues, yet he has openly opposed a number of government policies, including the development of genetically modified crops. He's raised questions about stem cell research and is a strong advocate of alternative medicine. He has expressed those views in speeches, letters, and meetings with government officials, some of whom consider him to be a royal nuisance.
How do you deal with that? How do you walk that line?
Well, years of practice, perhaps.
Does it get you in a spot of trouble from time to time with certain people?
Oh, inevitably, but it seems to be part and parcel of the thing. I mean, if I wasn't, I think, doing these things, I'd be accused by people like you doing nothing with my life.
Anybody ever tell you to tone it down a little bit?
Oh, yes, of course. But I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. And I think, you know, that all the things they've tried to tell me to tone down over the years, if you look now, you'll find they're fairly mainstream.
20 years ago, when he announced that he was going to begin farming organically on his estate at Highgrove, no one knew what he was talking about and assumed it was another crackpot idea. Today, it's big business in Great Britain, and Prince Charles has a line of high-end organic products produced on his estate called Duchy Originals that includes everything from biscuits and jams to mineral water, sausage, and turkeys.
And that's been quite successful. And that's grown. Now turns over £40 million a year, and I'm able to give away over £1 million each year to my charitable ventures. So that's given me great, you know.
You're not going to try and sell something here, are you?
Oh, you never know.
When he arrives in New York on Tuesday as Great Britain's most popular ambassador, he'll be selling a political, commercial, and diplomatic agenda prepared by the Foreign Office. He will also be introducing the American public to his new wife, who will be making her first official overseas trip and donned a diamond tiara for the first time last week.
Just one more, sir.
She's not giving interviews right now and may never. She's said to be interested in supporting, not overshadowing her husband, and has no interest in establishing her own public identity.
You're about to go to the United States. Should we do something to offend you 20 years ago that it's taking you that long to get back?
Oh, I haven't been for 20 years officially. You don't want to see me all the time. You get bored.
Is there anything you're looking forward to doing there? Anything you're looking forward to taking the Duchess and showing? Anything that you remember from your last visit? Are you going to get a favorite coffee or a meal or anything like that?
I think so, no. I mean, the problem is, you know, it's quite a long time and I don't know which bits away. Like, you know, these official visits are quite difficult they're difficult to escape, you know, go to places. It'd be nice to do it privately, but I'll have to wait for other occasions. But
Do you ever get to do anything privately?
Yes, but it's not so easy nowadays. I'd love to, but unfortunately I seem to be, you know, people seem to know about it or invent it.
Some of you may be wondering if Prince Charles is happy.
Very good.
We were specifically discouraged from asking that simple question, with the admonition that there is nothing well-mannered Englishmen and women loathe more than discussing their feelings. But we saved our last question to politely pursue the personal, and were deftly deflected with the royal chill.
It seems like you have reached a certain point in your life where your children are grown, you've remarried, your mother is approaching a significant birthday. It seems like your life is very stable and you seem very content in your job and your work.
If you think that that's what it all appears, I'm thrilled, delighted. And we'll see what, you know, the American people make of it when we come.